Hi everyone, my name is Carly Tapman and I'm a 2L on the Journal, and I wrote my case note on Navor v. Moneypenny Holdings, LLC, a case where the First Circuit sided with the Second Circuit in holding that prejudgment interest is allowed on damages awards based on Mix-Jones Act and unseaworthiness claims. First, I'm going to talk about the facts of the case, then I'll give some background info on prejudgment interest and discuss the circuit split, and finally I'll discuss the court's decision in Navor and give my analysis of it. The plaintiff in the noted case, Kenneth Navor, was once a professional sailor. He sailed, raced, and transported racing yachts, maintained and repaired sailboats and their equipment and gear, and participated in many elite racing events worldwide. In March of 2011, Navor and his fellow crew members, all employees of Moneypenny Holdings, were sailing through the Caribbean on board a 52-foot sailing vessel called the Vesper. As they sailed through the British Virgin Islands, Navor and his crew members learned that they, but not the vessel, had to return to St. Thomas to clear customs. A support vessel called the Odd Job met the Vesper in order to carry the crew members back to shore. Although the sea was choppy, the winds were normal for that time of year, and the captain of the Vesper did not tie the two vessels together. As Navor attempted to step from the Vesper onto the Odd Job, the boat separated and Navor slipped. He grabbed the Vesper's lifeline, reached for the Odd Job with his foot, and transferred over, but the stress on his right arm caused his bicep to tear from the bone. After visits to the doctor, surgery, and months of physical therapy, Navor went to a specialist who told him his arm was unlikely to improve and that he would never again be able to perform the heavy lifting his previous job had required. In June of 2013, Navor invoked federal admiralty jurisdiction and sued Moneypenny Holdings in the United States District Court for the District of Rhode Island, alleging negligence under the Jones Act and unseaworthiness under general maritime law. Following a 4-day bench trial, the district court awarded Navor over $1.46 million in damages, both for loss of earnings and for pain and suffering, and subsequently granted Navor's motion to add prejudgment interest in the amount of $858,029 to the damages award. This brought the total judgment to over $2.31 million plus costs. Moneypenny appealed, conceding liability, but challenging the award of damages as excessive and the prejudgment interest award as totally improper. On appeal, the First Circuit held that the damages award was appropriate and that Navor was entitled to prejudgment interest on the damages award resulting from his Mix-Jones Act and general maritime unseaworthiness claims. Prejudgment interest is awarded in admiralty claims for prejudgment economic harm as compensation for the use of funds to which the plaintiff was ultimately judged entitled, but to which the defendant had the use of prior to judgment. Prejudgment interest is typically not awarded in Jones Act cases, while it is generally awarded in cases under general maritime law. In a 1989 Supreme Court case, Osternick v. Ernst & Winnie, the court observed that prejudgment interest traditionally has been considered part of the compensation due a plaintiff. The Supreme Court also has stated that a district court should consider a number of factors in awarding prejudgment interest, including whether it is necessary to fully compensate the plaintiff, the degree of personal misconduct on the part of the defendant, whether the plaintiff caused any delay, and other fundamental conditions of fairness. Thus, while prejudgment interest is considered an important part of fully compensating a plaintiff for his injuries, the Supreme Court cautioned against an overly liberal application of the remedy without regard to fairness or any other considerations. When both an unseaworthiness claim and a Jones Act claim are present in a lawsuit, such as in Navor, disputes arise as to whether the plaintiff is entitled to prejudgment interest on such a mixed claim. Presently, there is a split of opinion among the circuits on this issue, with the Fifth and Sixth Circuits holding that a plaintiff is not entitled to prejudgment interest on a mixed claim, and the Second Circuit and now First Circuit disagreeing and holding that a plaintiff is entitled to prejudgment interest on a mixed claim. The Sixth Circuit stance on prejudgment interest awarded on mixed claims was explained in Peterson v. Chesapeake and Ohio Railway Company in 1986. There, the lower court held a jury trial on Mix-Jones Act and unseaworthiness claims, and the jury awarded damages to the plaintiff. The lower court refused to award prejudgment interest on the damages award, so on appeal, the plaintiff requested a granting of prejudgment interest. The Sixth Circuit explained that once a jury had awarded damages, a judge could not overstep the jury and add prejudgment interest to the jury's award. The court went on to state that even if the lower court could do this, such an award would not be warranted in the case before it, because the jury's verdict did not specify whether the damages were awarded solely on the unseaworthiness claim or solely on the Jones Act claim. The Sixth Circuit concluded that unless it was known on which particular claim the damages were being awarded, no prejudgment interest could be awarded at all, despite the presence of a claim on which prejudgment interest theoretically could be and generally is awarded. In 1984, the Fifth Circuit addressed the same issue in Wyatt v. Penrod Drilling Company and concluded that because the jury gave no indication which damages were attributable to which claim, the district court did not err in declining to award prejudgment interest altogether. The Fifth Circuit emphasized that if the court was not allowed to award prejudgment interest on a Jones Act claim and an indeterminable amount of the damage award was awarded on a Jones Act claim, there was no pure admiralty item on which to allow interest, and thus the court could not award prejudgment interest at all. The Fifth Circuit also emphasized the trial judge's statement that a plaintiff may not claim the benefit of an unseaworthiness claim merged with a Jones Act claim as to quantum and then attempt to unscramble the verdict after he prevails. In the noted case, the First Circuit adopted the Second Circuit's reasoning in McGee v. U.S. Lines in holding that, barring extraordinary circumstances, a plaintiff is not precluded from recovering prejudgment interest on a damages award based on a mixed Jones Act and unseaworthiness claim. The First Circuit emphasized that the recovery of prejudgment interest is regarded as a basic principle of admiralty law and as an essential part of the compensation due to a plaintiff to make him whole again. The First Circuit found Moneypenny's approach to prejudgment interest concerning because it would prevent many plaintiffs from recovering compensation that is regarded as due to them. The court noted, however, that a plaintiff may lose his right to prejudgment interest if there are exceptional circumstances present, such as bad faith, excessive overestimation of damages, or undue delay by the prevailing party. But the court found that no such circumstances existed in Navor, and that the plaintiff had not been unreasonable in prosecuting his case, and thus it concluded that there were no such extraordinary circumstances preventing Navor from recovering prejudgment interest. Finally, just as the Second Circuit did in McGee, the First Circuit noted that a plaintiff who is successful in mixed federal and state claims is not precluded from damages awards from one claim because the other claim is more restrictive. The court concluded that this reasoning should apply where Navor succeeded on parallel Jones Act and unseaworthiness claims. Accordingly, the court held that because Navor was entitled to prejudgment interest on his general maritime claim, there was no rational reason why his expansive success should deprive him of that entitlement. In the noted case, the First Circuit prioritized the rights of injured seamen to be made whole again through full compensation for his injuries over the need to distinguish between claims for which prejudgment interest may be awarded. While the First Circuit's decision might be a cause for concern in that it could expand the prejudgment interest defendants are required to pay injured seamen in suits containing mixed claims, there are three underlying factors in the court's holding that render it sound and reasonable despite this potential concern. First, undergirding the court's holding is the long-standing principle of admiralty law that necessitates injured seamen receiving full compensation for their injuries and being made whole again. Second, the court noted that the opposite outcome would mean not awarding prejudgment interest on damages awards on mixed claims at all, which would essentially deprive the injured seaman of what is rightfully due to him, namely interest on money that was his in the first place. In other words, plaintiffs would be punished because of their successful pursuit of various claims on which they could potentially recover. Third, to assuage a fear of defendants having to pay unfair amounts of prejudgment interest, the court emphasized that it would bar recovery of prejudgment interest on mixed claims if there were extraordinary circumstances present. Because the court's holding adopts this restriction against gross overpayment, among other things, and because it encompasses the long-standing principle of full recovery owed to injured seamen while preventing an outcome where they are deprived of it, the First Circuit's holding in this case is reasonable and sound.